Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, here with you for another middle of the day. Hey, there's stuff going on, so why don't we talk about it? Live show, live edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. And I am very pleased to be joined by someone I've gotten to know very well over the last few months when he became a Knicks Film School intern. I hope you don't mind me saying that you're a Knicks Film School intern because that is what you are, but you're like rocketing up the ranks, doing this, that, and the other thing over here. And also, he is a scribe for Canis Hoopis, which, for those who don't know, is an outlet that writes about the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, Thilo Latrell Widder.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here. I want to show that I come in peace. I'm wearing some Knicks merch just so everyone knows that I'm not here for a hostile takeover by any means.
What merch is that?
It's a random Kith piece that I found at a Burlington. I did my thesis on pre-integration basketball, and it has a bunch of Harlem Wrens, Harlem Globetrotters stuff on it. So I kind of had to grab it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that cool, so I'm just wearing a Knicks Film School hoodie. Anyway, so I've been looking for, frankly, an excuse to have you on because you bring a very interesting and different perspective on a player that has obviously been in the news a lot here in New York. I mean, he's been in the news since he got traded here, but he's really been in the news over the last, I would say, week to 48 hours. And that is Mr. Karl-Anthony Towns. And I want to go back to when you used to root for him and write about him and cover him on the regular. But before we even get there, I'm curious if you heard or saw the clip from Zach Lowe's most recent podcast about the Karl Towns
him slamming the gavel. Yeah, yes. I still think it's preemptive to
hold on. Let me just set this up. So,
all right.
So I listened to the pod last night, and then for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, Zach on his latest show with I think it was Kirk Goldsberry, and he had referenced this a week ago, whether did the trade really have a winner, and he kind of didn't say anything more than that. He just left it kind of up in the air. And then he's like, on this most recent episode, he said, I think I'm ready to say it, that the Wolves won the cat trade. And I got a text from a member of the Knicks Film School faculty this morning. I'm not going to say who it is. I'll leave it for that person if they want to reveal themselves. Basically pushing back against this notion that that we could say that the Wolves won the cat trade. And he had reasons for this, and I think they're valid reasons, and I'll get into it in a second. But before we get to that, I'm just going to ask you, from the perspective of someone who roots for the Timberwolves and writes about the Timberwolves, what do you think on this?
I think it's preemptive. Okay. I think it's a little early to lock it in, especially considering the Knicks are what 2-8 in the new year.
That would be 2-9, but who's counting? Or maybe it might be 2 because the Spurs loss was New Year's Eve. So yeah, 2-8 in the new year.
Whatever it is, and they're obviously on a bad stretch. On the other side of things, the Wolves have dropped 2 straight to. I mean, yesterday they lost to the terrible Jazz in a Yusuf Nurkic masterclass, which I don't know if anyone has ever used those words together. And the Wolves,
it was his best game of the season.
He had a triple-double with 18 assists. It was insane. He took a near half-court 3 to basically ice the game. It was one of the most confusing things I've seen as a Wolves fan. And they someone on Twitter said this, but when it comes to championship teams, there's usually a limit on how many bad losses you can have in a season. And
I feel the same way. Yeah.
The Wolves are really trying to break that record. And it happened 2 years ago when everyone said, you can't really be serious about this team, even if they're a top 3 seed. Happened last year. I just remember losing to the Blazers in a double overtime game that I was calling on playback. Shout out playback. I will always miss playback.
As will we here at Knicks Film School.
Right. Beautiful environment, beautiful fan environment. But either way, lost a terrible game to the Blazers. And this was the rebuilding Blazers without anyone really. And they've done it again with the Jazz. And I think when you talk about a Cat trade, that was always part of the discussion, was getting, I love Cat. He was the first player to ever interact with anything I had ever done. Part of the reason that I saw sports as like a real thing I could do. Part of the calculus of getting Cat out was trying to pivot to being more mature and having less of those moments of what we called stray voltage, right? Which was, you know, everyone who's watched Cat knows this. It's the drive that becomes a charge, the behind the shoulder passes that look great when they work and then don't the other 4 times, right? And that was part of the calculus. And as much as Julius has been awesome here, as much as Dante is having a great year, Joanne Behringer looks awesome.
Those former are Nick, all Joanne, former. Well, actually, no, he wasn't actually a former Nick, but taken with the draft pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like all of them have looked great, but this immaturity is still just kind of baked into the team. So I don't think you can call it like you can bang the gavel yet when the Wolves fell to the 7th seed last night and the Knicks are still what, like top 4, top 3?
So that speaks, I think, to the, and look, me and Sean have over on Takedown talked a lot about the perception that the East is a lot worse than the West, and that we thought maybe that was unfair because if you look at like the middle, like the juicy middle of the East, and you compare it to like the juicy middle of the West, maybe the East is a little bit better. Look, there's no denying the fact that the Knicks, who have a record of 25-18, are, well, actually, because I didn't even realize this until I'm just looking at the standings now. Good job by me paying attention to the sport that I cover. Are tied with the Toronto Raptors at 25-18, so tied for 3rd and 4th, whatever. And then the Wolves, who are a game and a half better than the Knicks at 27-17, are in a technically a 3-way tie for 5th, 6th, and 7th, but by percentage points, they're, you know, it's them and the Phoenix Suns. So yeah, you look at the standings, they're in 7th. I'm sure I could sit here and bullshit my way through an argument about why if the Wolves were in the East, they would not have an even better record than the Knicks. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
If the Wolves were in the East, I think they would be in 2nd. I think they would be ahead of the Celtics, and I think they would probably be closer to the Pistons, certainly, than Boston is.
Yeah.
But that's not really the conversation when it comes to this specific thing.
Yeah.
Because I think you just framed it really well when you were like, there were clearly issues with this team, with your team, with the Wolves.
Yeah.
When you had Karl Anthony Towns, and you thought to some extent that trading him away, and we're not even talking about the financial reasons why you guys traded him away, which that's a massive part, if not the most important part of the trade. But you thought to some extent that those issues would go away, even knowing that Julius Randle brought a lot of the same, I don't want to call it baggage, but I can't think of another word for it right now, so I'm just going to say baggage. Because like Karl Anthony Towns was part of the fabric of your city, of your everything. Whereas Julius, maybe the thought was, I don't know. Actually, I'm going to ask you this: was the thought partially that like, hey, we could maybe marginalize Julius a little bit more?
Yeah, it was
right. Yeah.
I want to remind people that the crowning moment of the Wolves over the last in franchise history, ignoring Kevin Garnett and what he did against Sacramento, the crowning moment in Wolves history was a Game 7 win against the Denver Nuggets that was taken over by Cat. Right? The crowning moment since KG is not an Anthony Edwards moment. As excellent as he's been, as much as he was the best player on the team, the crowning moment was a Cat moment. So trading him had people heartbroken. And I think a lot of people spent most of last year kind of just throwing Julius in trade machines.
Yeah.
Right? There wasn't the same connection. And when we sent out Cat, it was devastating. I mean, I'm working on a piece right now about the Dominican diaspora in New York and basketball around it, right? So Cat is hugely important. I mean, the day after that trade, there was a Dominican Republic Cat jersey on 174th Street, right? People fall in love with Cat, and it's really hard to want to get rid of him because he's so great in communities. We spent all of last year going, well, maybe we can throw Julius to Detroit and get back Jaden Ivey. Maybe we can throw him here and get back. And he just kept playing better and better. Yeah. And now you have the same thing where as his shooting splits fell off a cliff after the start of the season, everyone's like, well, maybe we can make him part of a Giannis trade. Maybe we can dump him here. Maybe, whatever it is. And there is definitely that element of like emotional attachment makes fans far more willing to send him out.
Yeah.
And I think on the Knicks side of it, it's really interesting how you guys have the opposite.
Well, it's the complete. Well, so it's interesting in a couple respects. The way you described the Minnesota fan base's feeling towards Karl Anthony Towns was the way that the Knicks fan base felt about a player in that trade. It was not about Julius Randle. And I, as you know, I have a daily newsletter. It's in addition to this and all the different ways I'm out there. The Hartenstein is still the guy that is people are most upset about in terms of the guy I think they miss the most because of. And again, this all ties together because he plays the same position as the guy who's frustrating people the most right now. But I think the Kevin Danishevskis of the world aside, everybody realizes that there was no realistic universe in which the Knicks were going to keep Isaiah Hartenstein because the salary cap exists and CBA rules and whatnot. To trade away Dante was an affirmative choice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not to say that there are not also people, or there were not also people at the time who were like, you guys are not appreciating Julius enough. Shout out to DJ Zulo, and what he brings and the unique way that he fits on this team.
Yep.
And I have certainly gained an appreciation in particular for his partnership with Jalen Brunson and how well those two guys work together on the court, to say nothing of how well I think they like each other off the court.
Yeah.
So there's so much of this stuff, but again, I like to try to bring it back to basketball. I don't know, man. Like, I understand you had this terrible loss last night. I understand you guys are on a 3-game losing streak.
Yep.
You're sixth best net rating in the league, a plus 4.6. It's a shade behind the Spurs. You guys have a top 6 offense, and you have it's a 10th ranked defense. So obviously, I know what the tradition has always been. I know that tradition has been challenged in recent years, but it's still generally like top 10 offense, top 10 defense. You can win it all. And here are the Knicks sitting in. Aside from the fact that their defense has been poo-poo for a very long time and for really most of the season, they're coming apart at the seams.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, man. I don't want to sit here and be like, you guys won the trade, but it ain't looking good right now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. I'll give you that. Julius
has been really good this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the funny thing about the, top 10 in both part is that the Wolves, I was talking to a staffer for a different team. And the funniest part of that conversation was turning to him and him being like, it's hard to prep for you guys. You guys are kind of somewhere between 6 and 12 in every single category. And I was like, look, definitely true, but they don't play like it most nights. It'll feel like they're, top 2 offense, bottom 5 defense. And then the next night it'll flip. And then some nights they'll be somewhere in the middle. But I do think there is a lot to be said about ceilings. And the Cat trade was always about ceiling. Right. It was always about, we're bringing in a superstar. We're bringing in this guy. Imagine, like, for years, the conversation with Cat has been, imagine the pick and rolls, right? If it's any ball,
are you talking about from our perspective now?
Even from the Wolves' perspective, that was the D'Angelo Russell trade idea. Imagine the pick and rolls, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that, like, the spacing he'll provide. And I think anyone who looks at Cat as a stretch big kind of misses the player that he is and the player that he wants to be. And that was always at the basis of the Cat conversation in Minnesota.
What does he want to be?
He wants to be an initiator. He wants to be driving. He wants to be the focus of an offense while also being willing to take a step back for the team. But he has those moments, when you play pickup and you haven't gotten the ball for a while. So even if you're in the corner, it's an open 3, you should take it.
I'll stop you right there. No, I don't, because I haven't played basketball in 30 years. But continue, please.
You get the ball in the corner. You go, I should shoot this. It's an open shot. But then you go, I haven't touched the ball for a while. So you drive and you throw in a few things. You ISO. You pull out what you think is a crazy finish. You don't make it, and then you're frozen out of the offense for the next 30 minutes. Right. There's a lot of that with Cat, where he's willing to take the step back, but he still really wants to have those moments. And I think there was no game that defined that better. If anyone wants to go back in the archives and watch the game against the Hornets, where he scored 63 in a loss.
Coming up, by the way, on the 2-year anniversary of said game. That 2-year anniversary is coming tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there was so much of that in that game where the drives were working. So the drives were working. So he was more willing to take those trailer threes that he should be taking like 12 of a game, 8 of a game.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth quarter, when the drives stopped working, he refused to take the trailer threes and it all fell apart. And he got benched in a game where he scored 63.
And
right?
got not him in particular, but the team got eviscerated.
Oh, yeah. And they deserved every second of it. But there's so much of that where people see Cat, and in the way, like every NBA fan does this. You see a player on a different team and you see the idea of them. You don't see who they are, right? And there's so much of that with Cat and how he came into a Knicks fandom that went, we're going to have the best spacing in the league. And I have a tweet up from ages ago where I was walking down Frederick Douglass Boulevard, right in the middle of Harlem, hear two people talking about the Cat trading for Knicks. And I was like, he's not a big, he's a forward. That's why it worked in Minnesota. He's a forward. You can't play him at the 5 for any longer than like 7-minute long stretches. And
because of defense.
Exactly. And it's because of defense. It's just because of how much you give up. Right.
Yeah, but he wants to play the 5, it feels like.
Exactly. And that's the issue. That's the whole thing of like, who does he want to be and who is he?
So,
and yeah.
No, so yes, that is the issue. It is who he wants to be and who should he be, I think, is the dividing line. And I want to go back to the stray voltage thing in a bit because I think it's a great description, except the problem is now the stray voltage has short-circuited the building and now there are no lights.
Well done.
So yeah, we'll see what happens tonight against Brooklyn. But like, Benji Ritholtz had a great observation. Like everybody, including me, when Cat made, I don't know if you saw this after the game the other night, someone asked him about it being basically the same team as last year and why are they struggling? And he's like, oh, we're not the same team. The real heroes of last year's team are not here. And he remembered one name, Campaign.
Yep.
Which was not surprising because, and this was Benji's point, Campaign always made sure Cat was the sun, the moon, and the stars on offense when he ran the show when Jalen Brunson was on the bench. And that's how Cat came across a lot of his points and is when he was the focal point of the offense. And Campaign was excellent at that. Like he was really, really good at that. And the Knicks don't have that now. I mean, Tyler Kolek has had some nice moments, but it's not the same. So like, I think there's a combination of that. There's a combination of the fact that Mike Brown wanted Cat to operate a little bit differently and not do as much of the stuff that you are sitting here and telling us. And we should have already known what Cat wants to do.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing that I'm most curious to ask you about is like I wasn't a Timberwolves fan, so I only knew kind of what I saw in the national media, and occasionally I would dip into like what you guys would talk about on the local level. Like, what happens when this guy is feeling not appreciated, when he is feeling marginalized, when he's feeling targeted, all of those sorts of things? Because my impression is that never really happened in Minnesota.
Oh, it happened a lot.
So tell me about
it. There was a game that he subbed himself out of. That got a ton of people mad.
When was it like recent?
This was when Ryan Saunders was here.
Oh,
this was like the COVID shortened
Tim's replacement.
Yep. The COVID shortened year was some of the most moribund basketball I have ever seen. And the second Andrew Wiggins, and I will always have Wiggs. I have his college jersey hanging in the closet behind me. Right, Wiggs is my guy. But the second Wiggs got sent out, the built-in scapegoat disappeared. Right, first it was Tibbs gone, then it was Wiggs gone, and then everyone turned on Cat.
Really?
And in a really interesting way, Ant was the one who fixed that. Ant's arrival completely changed the way that people viewed Cat, and even then, people were still like, he doesn't get it. He's going to want to be the one, and he made that transition beautifully. He was completely happy being the two.
Did
And
he
that
have
was,
his stretches of games where he would be the guy, though? I'm assuming yes.
yeah, and that was the really cool thing, was the Rudy Gobert acquisition completely changed the way that Cat saw what his role was. And he started being a playmaker, and he enjoyed being a playmaker so much that was enough to get him the touches. He would throw like 2 lobs to Gobert a game, and that would be enough for him to go, I had my highlights. I touched the ball. I did that. And I think what's the Chauncey Billups quote about Ben Wallace? Like when Ben Wallace signed with the Bulls and they were like, why is he not giving any effort on defense? And Chauncey Billups was like, you got to get him his 3 touches at the start of games and then he'll try. Even if he doesn't score on any of them, it's worth it to throw 3 possessions away.
So you're sorry.
There's a lot of that with Cat. Like you got to take the good with the bad. And if he starts feeling like he's disempowered, he does very much pout. Right. And there's so much that there is to do with that. And I think kind of empowering him to do the things that he's good at is what worked for the Wolves. Like, especially on that 2023-24 team, there was so much of, we are going to get you the ball in the post. We're going to play you with 3 shooters and Gobert. And then if you can get dump offs to Rudy, we're happy with that. And he was like, oh, I get to have my possessions in the post. Perfect. Wonderful. So we got the ball when he was at the arc, he would get the ball and he would shoot. When he was in the post, he would get the ball, he would play make, he would dribble, he would get all his moments in very contained spots where there was like, if you give the ball away, sure, it's a live ball turnover, but you're not so far behind the play. And the Wolves had a lot of players that were really willing to step in and stop fast break points. I mean, part of the reason this worked was because Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels were flying back. And Mike Conley, when he had more juice, was doing the same.
You just landed on something that's really interesting, where you're talking about, so Ant comes in and immediately embraces Towns. And vice versa. And those guys, look, I remember one of the first things I did after the trade was I went and looked at the assist numbers between Ant and Cat, because I remember hearing from Wolves people like there was never any crazy on-court partnership with those 2 guys. And you're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, maybe now playing with more of a traditional point guard I shouldn't say that. Jalen Brunson's not a traditional point guard. He's Allen Iverson. But like a guy ostensibly more of a point guard and a guy who averages whatever 6.5, 7 assists a game. Maybe that will help unlock Towns.
Yeah.
And I haven't checked the stat in about a week or so, but as of about a week ago, there were less assists from Brunson to Towns than they were games played between those 2 guys together. So that's fantastic.
Terrible.
But it's awful.
Yeah.
But those guys liked each other.
Yeah.
And they and Cat appreciated and sacrificed and vice versa. And then you're just talking about Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil being like amenable to like, hey man, even if you turn it over, we're going to hustle our asses back. Mike Conley, one of the greatest leaders in the sport. And he was there as well. And then you talk about Rudy, and it seems like Rudy and Cat had a good thing going too.
Oh, it's crazy that Rudy and Cat liked each other so much, because like, and I don't need to get into politics here, but politically, there are no 2 more diametrically opposed players on the planet. Right?
Really?
It's hilarious. And I think a huge part of what we've seen with Ant having the runway to become the player he is now is because Cat took so much of that, like so much of the heat away from him. Right? Ant came off the bench for the first like 60 games of the season, and he was bad for a lot of them. And that's the first overall pick. And kind of no one cared because everyone was just like, it's Cat and D'Angelo Russell's team, and D'Lo got himself run out of town because it was not great.
It's D'Lo,
right? It's D'Lo. But Cat took so much of that on. So even if the chemistry on court wasn't great, the chemistry off court was so good that it just kind of translated into them, vouching for each other constantly.
And where we're at now is a situation where Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns have, by my eye, like as little chemistry as you could possibly have between 2 players who are like often involved in pick and rolls together, and like they share the court a decent amount, and one's the point guard, one's the screen setter in a lot of scenarios. Mikal Bridges did not seem thrilled often last season, having to defend pick and rolls where Cat was the other guy. And we've seen Mikal have some, what's the right word? Noticeable on-court reactions to things that Cat has or has not done at times this year. OG, I can't speak to OG how he thinks about Cat. I could only assume. And Josh Hart, over the last year, has made an awful lot of comments, never naming names, but made an awful lot of comments about egos and agendas and this and that. And it's like, and you wonder, who's he talking? Now, I don't think he's talking, to be clear, I don't think he's talking about only Cat, and he may not even be talking about Cat. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know because I don't. But let's just say it does not seem like the same situation as with Minnesota. And now you add in a coach who's like, yeah, sure, Draymond Green tried to fucking take you out at the knees, but really, why'd you go get that offensive foul, dog?
And on the other side of things, like the Wolves environment was actively built to support Cat. Ant was turning down national interviews with Shaq because the whole team didn't like how Shaq spoke about Cat and Rudy.
That came up recently.
It like, I mean, can I give my most like Knicks Twitter brain take of all time?
I mean, you're on Knicks Film School Podcast for sure.
The Knicks need to bring back PJ Tucker.
that's been uttered a few. That's been among the literally dozens upon dozens of solutions that I've read people suggest in the last few days. That's one of them.
Yeah, like there's so much to be said of just having someone who's going to pull people together. And I think part of that, like maybe this is a little too pessimistic, but a lot of what happened in Milwaukee with Dame and Giannis can kind of be applied in a similar way with Cat and Jalen, where it's this idea of, oh, this is the ideal teammate. This is how this is going to work. With Dame and Giannis, it was imagine the pick and rolls, imagine the gravity, when neither really wants to play that way.
Nope.
Right.
And Jalen Brunson, I've referenced this so many times recently because Benji wrote it a week or so ago. Jalen Brunson wants an offensive lineman, not a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Cat, let me ask you this. Who is Cat's ideal partner on the floor?
I truly think it is some sort of 2-3, maybe 3-4 wing, or it's a defensive center that they are going to, because he loves his big to big pick and rolls. And that's something that I mean, obviously I don't watch every Knicks game.
Oh, I don't know that I've ever seen.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm trying to think. So Cat has had a few, and when I say a few, I mean, I count them on one hand. Lobs to Mitch since they have been teammates. But in terms of like Mitch screening for Cat at like the top of the arc or something?
And no, it was like off of the elbow. And it was this action that the Wolves ran all the time, which was Ant starts in the corner, comes up, gets his, top of the break three. And on the other side of things, Cat and Rudy are running this like tiny, like small scale pick and roll that it's like speed running what a short roll would be. Right. And they would do that, and that would work really well. And it was baffling that it would work really well because everyone was talking about the lack of space. And like it worked beautifully. And they ran like 7 of them a game. And it didn't always go great, right? Like there were moments where it was like, okay, Rudy Gobert doesn't have hands. Okay, Karl Anthony Towns just shoulder checked someone like he was playing hockey. Sure. But it kept everyone feeling like they were getting their touches. And it was at times like one of the most efficient plays in basketball. And that was the really confusing thing, was how well it was working despite the moments where it looked terrible. It's like the one true out, or the 2-3 true outcome hitting in baseball.
I don't know. No, where you're talking about wrong guy.
Home run or out. Right. And that's what that play was, where either it was easiest dunk of your life or the ball bounced out of bounds and everyone looks a little stupid.
So it sounds like what you're saying is like a lot of stars, Cat needs to be accommodated in a certain way. And it is very clear that that is not happening right now. And I guess the last part of it that, I'm curious about, and then we can maybe go back to the trade one last time before we get out of here, is you obviously also have experience with Tom Thibodeau as a coach, who is, I love the man or hate the man. He's one of one. There is no one else in the league remotely like him.
Yep.
But not other than, trying to think which Bulls team this would apply to. Other than maybe his first Bulls team.
Yep.
Maybe there was another. Actually, no. Other than maybe a few of the Bulls teams, there has not been a team that has taken on Thibodeau's personality so universally.
Yep.
As the Knicks before Cat got here.
Yep.
And when you're talking about and what was that personality? It is zero bullshit of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get in between the lines, it is, we are going to do, like, we are a machine built to win basketball games, and everybody will put any of their bullshit aside in order to make the machine function as great as possible.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of unique personalities to do that, because part of the machine was Jalen Brunson go shoot it 30 times a game, which he did after the injuries to OG and Julius in the 23-24 season, and was putting up Iversonian shot totals in that playoffs.
Yeah.
And it damn well almost got him to the Eastern Conference Finals, but that's neither here nor there. So you have that mentality still, I think, in certain corners of this locker room, certainly with Jalen and Josh. I don't know about Deuce, but like Deuce has always struck me as that sort of guy.
Yeah.
And so I think you have that, and now you have Cat.
Yep.
And it worked okay last year in that it didn't blow up like this.
Yep.
But things were never really right last year either. You know,
the really funny thing is that when Tibbs first arrived in Minnesota, he kept talking about how Cat is like, that's going to be the next Joakim Noah. Like, he is Joakim, like, playmaking center.
Yep.
He's Joakim Noah, where I wanted him offensively. If he can just get back to college defense, like, I see everything in Cat that I saw in Joakim. And there are no two less similar big men that have played for Tom Thibodeau. Like, Taj Gibson, like geriatric Taj Gibson was far closer to, Joakim Noah than Cat ever got.
Dude,
right?
Don't forget, we had Taj after.
I love Taj.
We had Taj after you guys.
Yeah.
And I witnessed a playoff series in the year of our Lord 2021, in which the two best players on the Knicks were Derrick Rose until he ran out of gas in the last game, and Taj Gibson. So anyway, you don't have to sell me on
I love Taj.
Taj.
I went to a Knicks game a couple of years ago where I was just screaming, put Taj in the whole game, and he got in and proceeded to miss 6 shots, which was baffling why Taj Gibson was taking 6 shots. Either way, Tibbs was not a good fit in Minnesota for a lot of the reasons that he was a great fit in New York, where it was the idea of what you want your stars to represent.
Yeah.
And in Minnesota, he just never had that. Like, even when he tried to bring in Jimmy was whatever the word is, like a military leader. He was not going to come in and just be like, all right, we're rugged, but we don't have ego. Like, by that point, Jimmy had a massive ego, and that was
his ego's as big as anyone's.
Right. And I think that's what's really special about Jalen, was that Jalen is like the no ego superstar. Right. Maybe not no ego, but there's a lot of.
So ego in I don't know how to. It's not a. It's. I don't think it's a. Trust me, Jalen's catching a lot of shit these days too.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons. I won't sit here and be like he has no ego. I don't think you could be an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
No ego, but I think it's mostly productive.
It's less public facing.
Yes.
Right. That's the big thing, where it's things are kept behind closed doors, and he's clearly gets pissed, but he doesn't. There's no jabs that come from Jalen. There are some that come from other players. They come from Mike Brown. They come from Josh Hart, whatever it is, but they come less from Jalen.
No, he won't ever.
Yeah.
He'll never, he's never made a comment like some of the stuff Josh has said.
Or Mike Brown, and I think, like, it's so difficult to talk about Cat for me, because on one hand, I'm like so emotionally invested in him as a person.
Still.
one of the best people I've ever met in basketball.
So
Like truly like the nicest human being on the planet. John Krasinski has a story where Cat got traded and the next day still showed up to his kid's like soccer game.
I had John on this pod, I'm pretty sure, to talk about that story.
He is my absolute goat. I love the man. But like it's so difficult to see this with Cat because there's so much of like, I want to like grab you by the shoulders and shake you. Like this should be easy, right? You're doing the hard stuff well and the easy stuff so badly that it's making the hard stuff disappear.
So let's end with this, because I think ultimately the answer to the who won the Cat trade is going to be determined by a couple things. One, and we'll apologies, we don't have time to go down this road, but like whether you guys get another ball handler before the trade deadline, and I would imagine you're currently working the phones.
They should be. Any one of those Chicago guards would instantaneously make such a huge impact.
You know who's an underrated ball handler is Gersson Rosas. Can I interest you in a lightly used, and I do mean lightly because he's played like 160 minutes this year. No. So I think that's going to go a long way. And I actually do agree with Zach Lowe. I do think you guys are a legit dark horse title contender. And then on the Knicks side, because I pitched a bunch of fake Cat trades because that's where we're at in today's newsletter, and they all suck. And they're bringing back between 15 and 35 cents on the dollar. You know,
the $63 million player option is such a nightmare to handle.
Well, again, we could go down this road another day, but like the notion that he's gonna opt out of that at this point, like, he might opt out if he knows that there's 3 for $150 to take its place or 3 for $140 to take its place. Where I never say never, but I want to see the team that right now has on their whiteboard that's starting in the 20, what is that? It's 25, 20. It's, what is it?
It's 28, 29.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna, that's the road that we want to go down. I want to find that team and immediately have Lee Edwards get on the phone with them.
Yeah.
But I digress. So yes, the money is the issue, but just so there's no good trade. There's no good trade. We know there's no good trade. And we know he's probably going to be here. And I think the what's going to determine the ultimate success is whether he has it, whether others around him could change. And I think that starts with Mike Brown, because if Mike Brown does not adjust, frankly, he should not have a job anymore, because like your number one job as a coach is to coach the players you have. And he's clearly not coaching this player.
Yeah.
So that's number one. But number two, I do think there needs to be some sort of come to Jesus moment with Karl-Anthony Towns, where he looks at this situation and is like, I need to put aside whatever I am upset about.
Yeah.
And at least like show my teammates that I am giving my version of that I could give. And I think we saw what that looks like, because we saw it at times last season. We've seen it at times this season.
Can I give you an under-discussed element of the Cat trade?
Please.
That certainly wasn't reason 1 or 2, money, fit, whatever. Cat had a major meniscus injury 3 years ago. And he got this. There's 2 options for meniscus surgery. There's, full reconstruction, or there's reattachment. Yeah. And reattachment means you can come back within like 2 months. And reconstruction is a season ender, like year-long recovery. And, by that logic, everyone would say, well, you get reattachment, you do it that way. It is devastating to actual side-to-side mobility. And for a player like Cat, where that was already a problem, it's gotten worse, right? The actual moving side-to-side that you need to even be okay as a rim protector, even though he's not a good one, just to be in place, right? That has, from what I've seen of Knicks games, has gotten somehow even worse.
So obviously, is again, I'm sure Karl-Anthony Towns' effective field goal percentage currently 52.5. The next lowest number of his career was as a rookie, and he actually equaled this another later year at 555. So he is shooting effectively 30 percentage points lower than his worst previous shooting season. And a lot of that, and if you want to say that a lot of this comes from this thing, is like, I don't know how else to say it. A lot of basketballs that used to go in the hoop are not going in the hoop.
Yeah.
And I think you could point to a physical issue there.
Yep.
And how much of Cat being unhappy / frustrated is just like the opportunities he's having are he's not even making good on. And look, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna, as people watching this know, I'm not terribly optimistic that this is gonna end well. Because I think there's a lot of strong personalities in that locker room, and I don't know that anyone is going to like back off of their current position. So I hate that I have to talk about this in this way, but I don't know how else to discuss it. So yeah, we do have one super chat here, which unfortunately we're not going to have time to go deep on. As quiet.
Oh my God.
Easy quiet. Please ask your guests his thoughts on Gersson Rosas. I'm assuming you know this person.
I don't know this person. I know Gersson Rosas very well.
So hold on. I'm going to preface this by saying I have to walk out of the house in 3 minutes to go pick up my daughter from the bus. So give me 45 seconds on Gersson Rosas.
Okay. Gersson Rosas, disgraced former Timberwolves GM who put all of the pieces in place of this current team, with the exception of like Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, blah, blah, blah. Was the guy who, drafted Ant 1 overall, found Naz Reid as an undrafted free agent, drafted Jaden McDaniels 27th, was fired because he was having an affair with someone in the front office.
Not ideal.
Genuinely, by every report, has the largest ego of someone who is not remotely a household name, maybe ever.
Exactly what you want in a collaborative front office. Continue.
And there are still people on Knicks fan sites that I've seen that are like, if Leon Rose doesn't work out, we got Gersson Rosas waiting in the wings. And it's like, well, I'm not really sure you want that.
Look, if Dolan ever did move on from Leon, the smartest thing he would be able to do would be to give Brock Aller a blank check and say, write your next salary. Please, God, stay here. My guess is that Brock Aller is not about to hitch his wagon to this horse if it goes the direction it would have to go for Leon to get canned. And he would go take, I don't know where he would go, but I think he would be gone. And I think that Dolan would go in a different direction. We'll have some more time to talk about Gersson Rosas, perhaps another day. Like I said, I got to go grab my daughter from the bus. Thilo, you have been an awesome addition to the Knicks Film School staff here, helping me out with a lot of graphic stuff. At some point, if we ever get our new website up and running, I'm looking forward to maybe reading some of your thoughts on Karl-Anthony Towns in a Knick uniform. But in the meantime, where can people find your fantastic stuff?
Yeah, so I'm TLO_L_W on Twitter. If anyone wants to follow there, I do a lot of shit posting, which is why I have Doc Rivers on a poster behind me. But it is a lot of real, NBA thoughts. I write for Canis Hoopis. I write for SB Nation. I have a piece coming out in the next few days to week, maybe, about Kobe Brea and, the Dominican diaspora in New York and the way it affects basketball and stuff like that. Got some more Wolves thoughts. And hopefully we'll be writing about the Knicks very soon as well. Really excited for that.
You do an excellent job. You do an excellent job covering the Wolves, but also you've been a godsend here. Thank you for hopping on today. I have a feeling this is not the last time that we will talk about this topic. Everybody out there in Knicks land, thanks for tuning into kind of an off-the-cuff live stream here in the middle of the day. You can catch me after the game. I'm sure whatever happens, my reaction will be very calm and measured. And if you haven't already done so, check out Andrew Claudio's pregame pod with Evan Roberts. Evan is awesome as always, even if he was doing a little shit talking. And that's it. We will talk to you all soon. Peace out.